Welcome to the Discourse Analyzer AI Toolkit, where articles come alive. You're listening to the audio version of our article. For the full text and an interactive experience, check out the link in the description below. Interact with any selection using our AI assistant to enhance your understanding. Let's explore.
Applying Post-Colonial Theory and Discourse Analysis. Case Studies. Exploring the intricate relationship between post-colonial theory, discourse analysis, and various forms of media reveals a compelling narrative of resistance, identity, and power dynamics that persist from historical texts to modern digital landscapes. This investigation delves into three key areas: the analytical frameworks applied to historical documents and post-colonial reinterpretations, the representation and negotiation of post-colonial themes in media and popular culture, and the amplification of marginalized voices within societal discourses. By examining how these areas intersect and diverge, we uncover the enduring impact of colonial legacies on contemporary narratives and the transformative power of discourse as a tool for challenging and reshaping these narratives. Through this multifaceted analysis, we aim to highlight the significance of post-colonial theory and discourse analysis in understanding and critiquing the complex layers of history, culture, and identity in a globalized world. 1. Analyzing historical texts. Applying post-colonial theory and discourse analysis to historical texts, including colonial archives and documents, as well as post-colonial reinterpretations, opens up a rich field of inquiry. These case studies allow researchers to examine the narratives, ideologies, and power structures embedded within historical texts and to explore how these elements have been challenged and reimagined in the post-colonial context. Through this lens, we can gain insights into the continuities and discontinuities between colonial discourses and their post-colonial legacies. 1. Analyzing colonial archives and documents. Objective: to uncover how colonial power relations, ideologies, and identities were constructed, maintained, and legitimized through official documents, archives, and other textual materials produced during the colonial period. Approach: discursive analysis. Examining the language, rhetoric, and narrative structures used in colonial documents to identify how they articulate visions of the colonial project, represent colonized peoples, and justify colonial practices. Contextualization. Situating these documents within their broader historical, social, and political contexts to understand their role in the colonial apparatus and their impact on colonized societies. Example case study. A study of British colonial reports on governance in India could analyze how the discourse of civilizing mission was employed to justify colonial rule, examining the representations of Indian society and the implications for colonial governance practices. 2. Post-colonial reinterpretations. Objective: to explore how post-colonial writers, historians, and scholars reinterpret and challenge colonial narratives and ideologies through their engagement with historical texts, offering alternative perspectives that center the experiences and voices of the colonized. Approach: counter-discourse analysis. Investigating how post-colonial reinterpretations serve as counter-discourses that contest and deconstruct colonial narratives, focusing on the strategies used to reclaim history and identity. Comparative analysis. Comparing colonial and post-colonial texts to highlight the shifts in narrative, perspective, and interpretation, revealing the processes of decolonization at work within the realm of discourse. Example case study. Analyzing the works of post-colonial historians who reinterpret colonial archives to highlight resistance movements within colonized societies, offering a counter-narrative to the colonial depiction of passive subjugation. This could involve a close reading of Tiango or Chakrabarty's reinterpretations of colonial narratives. Applying post-colonial theory and discourse analysis to the study of historical texts enables a critical examination of the ways in which colonialism has shaped, and continues to influence, historical narratives, identities, and power relations. Analyzing colonial archives and documents reveals the mechanisms through which colonial ideologies were constructed and disseminated, while post-colonial reinterpretations offer a means of challenging and transforming these narratives. Through these case studies, researchers can contribute to a more nuanced understanding of history that recognizes the complexities and contestations inherent in post-colonial societies' ongoing efforts to reckon with their colonial pasts. 2. Media and popular culture. Applying post-colonial theory and discourse analysis to media and popular culture involves scrutinizing how colonial legacies and power dynamics are manifested and contested within film, television, advertising, and digital platforms. This analytical lens reveals the ways in which media not only reflects societal norms and values but also participates in shaping and challenging them. Here are case studies exploring these dynamics. 1. Case studies in film, television, and advertising. Objective: to examine how film, television, and advertising serve as mediums through which post-colonial themes, such as identity, resistance, and cultural hybridity, are articulated, negotiated, and sometimes commodified. Approach: narrative and semiotic analysis. This involves analyzing the narratives and visual semiotics of films, TV shows, and advertisements to decode how they represent colonial histories, post-colonial identities, and the cultural intersections of globalized societies. Audience reception studies. Understanding how diverse audiences interpret and engage with post-colonial themes in media, which can vary significantly across different cultural and social contexts. Example case study. A study of Bollywood films could explore how they negotiate Indian identity post-independence, including the portrayal of British colonialism, the partition, and the ongoing impacts of colonial legacies on Indian society and diaspora. Another example could involve analyzing Western advertisements that utilize exoticism to sell products, critiquing the ways in which these advertisements commodify and simplify non-Western cultures. 2. Social media and digital platforms. Objective: to investigate how social media and digital platforms become spaces for articulating, disseminating, and contesting post-colonial discourses. This includes exploring how digital activism, online communities, and content creators engage with post-colonial issues and identities. Approach: content analysis. Examining the content produced on social media platforms to understand how post-colonial issues and identities are represented and discussed. This includes analyzing hashtags, viral posts, memes, and online campaigns. Discourse networks analysis. Mapping out the networks of discourse on digital platforms to understand the flow of post-colonial narratives and counter-narratives, identifying key influencers, communities, and the dynamics of online discussions. Example case study. Analyzing the hashtag #DecolonizeYourFeed movement on Twitter and Instagram could provide insights into how social media users challenge colonial narratives and promote post-colonial awareness through digital content. Another study might focus on how online forums and YouTube channels serve as platforms for diasporic communities to discuss and negotiate their cultural identities in the context of colonial legacies and global migration. Through the application of post-colonial theory and discourse analysis to case studies in media and popular culture, scholars can uncover the complex ways in which colonial legacies are woven into the fabric of contemporary media landscapes. By examining film, television, advertising, and digital platforms, these case studies reveal how media acts as a powerful site for negotiating identities, histories, and power relations in the post-colonial world. These analyses not only contribute to our understanding of media and popular culture but also highlight the ongoing relevance of post-colonial critiques in navigating the globalized and digitalized cultural terrain of the 21st century. 3. Voices from the margins. Applying post-colonial theory and discourse analysis to voices from the margins involves a focused examination of how marginalized, often silenced groups, referred to as the subaltern in post-colonial studies, utilize discourse as a form of resistance and empowerment. This analytical approach uncovers the strategies employed by these groups to assert their identities, narratives, and rights, challenging dominant discourses that perpetuate their marginalization. Here are some insights into amplifying subaltern voices through discourse analysis and case studies showcasing resistance and empowerment. 1. Amplifying subaltern voices through discourse analysis. Objective: to explore the ways in which subaltern groups use language and other forms of discourse to articulate their experiences, challenge dominant narratives, and assert their presence in the socio-political sphere. Approach: narrative analysis. Examining personal narratives, stories, and testimonies of subaltern groups to understand how they construct their identities and experiences in opposition to or in negotiation with dominant discourses. Counter-discourse strategies. Identifying the rhetorical and linguistic strategies used by marginalized communities to resist and reframe dominant narratives that silence or marginalize them. Example case study. Investigating the discourse of indigenous activists in social media campaigns could reveal how they use digital platforms to highlight issues of land rights, cultural preservation, and sovereignty, challenging mainstream narratives about indigenous communities. 2. Case studies of resistance and empowerment. Grassroots movements and community art. Overview. Grassroots movements and community art projects often serve as platforms for subaltern voices to express resistance and seek empowerment. These can include street art, community theater, and local storytelling initiatives that foreground marginalized perspectives. Analysis. Discourse analysis of these forms of expression can illuminate how they serve as acts of resistance, the communal identities they forge, and the ways they negotiate space within dominant cultural landscapes. Example: analyzing the murals and street art in marginalized neighborhoods that tell stories of resistance, community struggles, and aspirations can provide insights into how art functions as a form of discourse that challenges systemic oppression and reclaims public spaces. Testimonies and narratives of refugees and migrants. Overview. The narratives and testimonies of refugees and migrants often reflect complex experiences of displacement, identity, and belonging, serving as critical counter-narratives to the dominant discourses that frame them as others. Analysis. Through discourse analysis, researchers can explore how refugees and migrants articulate their journeys, the challenges they face, and their aspirations, highlighting the agency and resilience within these narratives. Example: a study on the personal blogs, memoirs, or interviews with refugees could uncover the discursive practices that challenge stereotypes and humanize their experiences, contributing to a more nuanced understanding of migration and displacement in the post-colonial context. The application of post-colonial theory and discourse analysis to voices from the margins emphasizes the power of discourse as both a site of oppression and a tool for resistance. By focusing on amplifying subaltern voices and analyzing case studies of resistance and empowerment, this approach sheds light on the resilience, creativity, and agency of marginalized communities. These analyses not only contribute to the academic understanding of discourse and power but also support broader efforts towards social justice and inclusivity, highlighting the importance of listening to and amplifying voices from the margins. Conclusion. The application of post-colonial theory and discourse analysis across historical texts, media, and voices from the margins offers profound insights into the enduring legacies of colonialism and the ongoing struggles for narrative autonomy and identity affirmation. From the critical examination of colonial archives to the scrutiny of modern media and the empowerment of marginalized voices, these analytical approaches illuminate the multifaceted ways in which power, identity, and resistance are negotiated and contested. This comprehensive analysis not only enriches our understanding of post-colonial dynamics in diverse contexts but also underscores the importance of these theories and methodologies in challenging dominant narratives and fostering a more inclusive and nuanced discourse. As we continue to navigate the complexities of a post-colonial world, the insights gained from these studies serve as valuable tools for scholars, activists, and communities alike in their efforts to deconstruct and reimagine the narratives that shape our understanding of history, culture, and identity. Frequently asked questions. How does post-colonial theory apply to the analysis of historical texts? It enables the critical examination of colonial narratives, ideologies, and power structures in historical documents, revealing how colonial discourses have shaped, and continue to influence, contemporary understandings of history and identity. What is the significance of analyzing colonial archives and documents? Analyzing these texts uncovers the mechanisms through which colonial ideologies were constructed and disseminated, offering insights into the representation of colonized peoples and the justification of colonial practices. How do post-colonial reinterpretations challenge historical narratives? Post-colonial reinterpretations serve as counter-discourses that deconstruct colonial narratives, focusing on reclaiming history and identity from the perspective of the colonized, and offering alternative narratives that emphasize resistance and agency. What role does post-colonial theory play in media and popular culture analysis? It scrutinizes how media and popular culture reflect, negotiate, or challenge colonial legacies, revealing the complexities of identity, power, and resistance within global media landscapes. How are narratives and semiotics used to analyze film, television, and advertising? Through narrative and semiotic analysis, researchers decode how these media forms represent post-colonial themes, such as identity and cultural hybridity, and how they negotiate colonial histories and post-colonial identities. What impact has the digital age had on post-colonial discourses? The digital age has transformed communication, creating new platforms for articulating and contesting post-colonial discourses, though it also presents challenges related to digital divides and online colonialism. How does post-colonial theory and discourse analysis amplify subaltern voices? These approaches focus on how marginalized groups use discourse to articulate their experiences and resist dominant narratives, highlighting strategies of counter-discourse and narrative construction that challenge marginalization. What insights do case studies of grassroots movements and community art offer? They illuminate how grassroots movements and community art function as platforms for expressing resistance, forging communal identities, and negotiating space within dominant cultural landscapes, showcasing the creative and resilient responses to systemic oppression. Why is the integration of post-colonial theory and discourse analysis important? This integration offers a comprehensive framework for understanding the dynamics of power, identity, and resistance across historical, media, and societal discourses, enriching our understanding of post-colonial conditions and supporting efforts toward decolonization and social justice. How do these analytical approaches contribute to contemporary discourse? By challenging dominant narratives and fostering a more inclusive discourse, post-colonial theory and discourse analysis provide valuable tools for deconstructing colonial legacies and reimagining the narratives that shape our globalized world.